Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a really big question. Is psychology a real science? Or does it, sometimes slip into the world of pseudoscience? Things that just look and sound all scientific, but aren't. Let's figure out how to spot the difference.
We've all been there, right? You're scrolling through your phone, you see your daily horoscope, maybe a personality quiz, or your aunt is raving about some miracle cure. They all promise these deep, personal insights or incredible results. But how do they actually stack up against the real science of the human mind? That's the line we're here to draw today.
Okay, so first things first, we need to get our definitions straight. To really understand where psychology fits in, we have to agree on the rules of the game. What is science, and what's its very clever imitation, pseudoscience?
Now, when we say science, try not to just picture lab coats and bubbling beakers. At its very heart, science is a method. It's a system for testing our ideas against the cold, hard facts of the real world. Think about how a good doctor works. They use tests, they look at observable symptoms, they rely on treatments that have been proven to work. It's all built on evidence, logic, and a really healthy dose of skepticism.
Pseudoscience, on the other hand, is like a copycat. It's a really clever mimic. It uses all the right-sounding jargon, it talks a big game about evidence, but it totally skips the hard work. It avoids things like controlled experiments and instead relies on personal stories or glowing testimonials.
And here's where you see the night and day difference. Real science actively tries to break its own theories. I know, it sounds weird, right? It makes testable predictions and then does everything it can to prove them wrong. That's how it self-corrects and inches closer to the truth. Pseudoscience does the complete opposite. It makes claims so vague you can't test them, it only looks for proof that it's right, and it never ever admits it's wrong. It stays stagnant.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? We are surrounded by common sense wisdom about people and why they do what they do. But what happens when we put that folk wisdom on trial using the scientific method? Take these two sayings. We hear them both all the time, but they're total opposites. I mean, which one is it? This is where scientific psychology really comes in handy. It doesn't just shrug and accept them. Nope. It designs careful experiments to find out which one actually holds true and, more importantly, under what conditions. It's all about replacing anecdotes with actual data.
So why do things like horoscopes or fortune-telling feel so creepily accurate sometimes? Well, a huge part of the answer is a little psychological quirk called the Barnum effect. This is our natural tendency to hear a really vague general statement and believe it applies specifically and uniquely to us. So when a horoscope says, you sometimes have doubts about your decisions, pretty much everyone on Earth nods and goes, wow, that is so me.
And this is a really crucial distinction we have to make, separating pure entertainment from real psychological assessment. That online quiz that tells you your personality is like a club sandwich, that's just for a laugh. But a tool like the Big 5 personality inventory, that is a whole different ballgame. It's been tested and retested for years to make sure it's reliable, meaning you get similar results every time, and valid, meaning it actually measures what it claims to measure.
But this brings up a really important question. If a claim is totally pseudoscientific, why do we hear so many people insist, well, it worked for me, or my friend swears by it? Why do these things feel so real and so effective, even when there's no solid proof?
Well, there are a few powerful psychological tricks our own minds play on us. First, you've got the classic placebo effect. Just believing a treatment will help can actually make you feel better. Then there's confirmation bias, which is our brain's habit of remembering the one time the psychic got something right and conveniently forgetting the 50 times they were completely wrong. And finally, there's something called regression to the mean. All this means is that things tend to balance out over time. When you're at your absolute lowest point, things are naturally likely to get a bit better on their own. We try some weird cure at that moment and give it all the credit, when really it was just statistics doing its thing.
So, how do you avoid falling into these traps? Don't worry, we've got you covered. We've put together a handy little pseudoscience detector kit to help you spot the warning signs out there in the wild.
All right, here are the red flags you need to watch out for. Is the main evidence just a bunch of personal stories?
"This changed my life," you know the type. Are the supporters super hostile to any criticism? Do they use a lot of impressive-sounding but totally vague jargon like energy vibrations? You'll also notice their big claims never, ever change, while real science is constantly updating. When you see these signs, that's your cue to get skeptical.
So what can you do? Here's your simple 3-step action plan. First, just be skeptical. If a claim sounds way too good to be true, it almost certainly is. Second, check the source. Is this coming from some random website, or is it backed by a reputable institution and research that other scientists have checked? And finally, and this one is the hardest, know yourself. Be aware that we all have biases. We all want simple answers, and that desire can make us vulnerable.
And we'll leave you with this question to think about. Have you ever fallen for a pseudoscientific claim? Be honest with yourself. I think if we're all honest, the answer is probably yes. And that's okay. Thinking about our own experiences is the first, most powerful step toward becoming a sharper, more critical thinker. And that's what true psychology, as a science, really gives us, the tools to understand not just the world but ourselves.